Hi, I'm Pastor Don Winters, and I want to welcome you to the coffee house at First Baptist Church. We've named our coffee house the Perfect Blend. One of the things I do want to say about our coffee house is that it's not about the coffee. That's something that I've shared from the beginning. It's something that I believe in. I think this coffee house is a place, is a way for us to exercise and show hospitality. Is welcoming strangers. And how do we best welcome strangers into our church? How do we create an environment of hospitality? And it actually came about, we began a stewardship campaign called Adventures in Thanksgiving. And one of the ways this stewardship campaign works is that the church comes together and each person is given an opportunity to share their vision of where they think the church should go. And there's different areas. There's a ministry area, there's a mission area, and there's a maintenance area. And one of the things I noticed is that again and again people thought that some of this area in here needed some updating, there needed some paint, we needed to brighten the area. We wanted to focus in on outreach and hospitality. And at the same time, as I was reflecting on this, I visited a church that had a coffee house as you entered into the church. And I remember feeling and thinking, this is a welcoming environment. I like this. I feel comfortable. And I started to think, could we do this at our church? Could we pull this off? And at the time, I did not think that this would be a reality in here just because of the setup. Most of what you see used to have filing cabinets and storage areas, and the plumbing was not hooked up. But as I walked around and reflected with others, I started to look at this, and I believe God gave me a vision. And we started to look at that vision, and I shared it with our church council. I shared that with a decorating committee. And I painted a big picture. I said, picture this with me, what it would be like. People walk into the church, it's bright, it's lively, they come in. There's a place where people can sit down and have a conversation. And I said, now think about how we do conversations right now. As we converse, in most churches you come in, you sit in a pew, and what do you do to talk to the person? Well, you turn around and you face this way awkwardly in a chair. Now nobody in real life, other than moms driving in a minivan, turn around to have conversations with people. But that's what we do in the church. And I said, what if we created an environment where people could come in, sit down, have a cup of coffee, share what's on their heart, talk about their problems, their trials. We get to know people that are walking in the door in an environment that's comfortable for them. And then, as we do that, we move into the worship service. And so we move from gathering as a community and fellowshipping and sharing what's going on in our lives, and then we move into worship. And the great thing for me is as I shared this vision, people jumped right on board. A committee was formed, and they hired some painters, they hired plumbers. The decorating committee just went about, and I didn't have to, nudge anybody. Cleaning committees were formed, and things began to happen. There were lots of neat things that went on as we gathered and as we thought about this. These tables and chairs, for instance, we kept looking, and everything we found, we decided we can't afford to buy that. One day I got a phone call from a lady. She said, I'm up at this mall that is downsized, and they've got hundreds of tables and chairs that they said they're willing to sell for us for dirt cheap. And I said, buy them. And that's what we have here. These have been refurbished. We had a friend Sunday, invite a friend to church Sunday. Which we also use as our kickoff to open up the coffee house. And for me, I was overwhelmed as I walked into this room. it was exactly as I envisioned. These tables were full, and people were having conversation. There were at least 3 of the tables had people I had never met before. And so I got to walk over and talk with them, find out, how did you get here this morning? And did somebody invite you? And are you from town? I don't believe we met yet. Some of the chairs to the side were pulled up, and people were conversing. And one of the questions was, how do we start the worship service? Are the people going to sit up here? Are they going to go to the pews? And I hadn't quite figured that out. My personal opinion was, if 50 to 100 new people came and they sat back here and drank coffee the whole service, I wasn't going to care. But as the piano began playing and we began our worship service, nobody said a word, but people stood up and went to the pews and sat down and began to worship. One of the things that really excites me about what's going on here is I think we've discovered a way to do 21st century ministry with what we already have here. We're really good at greeting people. We're really good at having conversations. And in fact, in the middle of our service, we have a time where you greet your neighbors. And I usually have to rope that in and tell people, okay, it's time to sit back down. We need to go back. And so as this idea came about, I thought, how can we incorporate that in a way that people that are unchurched are going to feel comfortable about that? And I thought, a coffee house is a place where people are used to sitting down and having a conversation. And how do we do what we naturally do in an environment that's going to be well received? And that's what we did here. And if you look at the coffee house area here, we've used what was already here without major changes to the structure. And I've thought and I've heard people as they walk through say, this looks like it was designed for a coffee house in the back of the church. And I've talked to long-time members, and they were delighted about what was taking place, that they see something fresh and new, but doesn't completely disrupt what's already been here. And they've talked about enjoying sitting back here and fellowshipping and having conversation with people that they haven't met. Another one of the joys that I've had is one day that the secretary came back from the post office with these giant boxes, and we opened them up, and another ABC church up in the Great Rivers region sent us 24 pounds of coffee. There was no note, but inside there was 24 pounds of coffee. There was some sugar in there. There was some creamer, and it just delighted me to see that another church within the Great Rivers region has seen that God is doing something here, and they wanted to be a part of that. If you would want any information about what we did here, and if you wanted to start something in your church, please feel free to give me a call. You can call us at our church number. It's